November, Tuesdays about this time. It is Party Scooper time. This morning we have one scoop here. We have Jeff Link from Link Strategies joining us in studio as talking everything Democratic here this morning. As we first mentioned, Hillary got a nice nod when a question was asked as who you would trust the most with foreign policy.
Yeah, well, I think we've had some world events that are really going to have a big impact on this race going forward. One of the things is, with what happened in Paris, and then this morning we wake up and find out that Turkey has shot down a Russian jet that apparently was over its airspace. I think it's going to sort of change the race fundamentally. And what I mean by that is Hillary Clinton is the one candidate in the race who has been Secretary of State, who's handled directly, foreign nations, dealt with heads of state, is really sort of head and shoulders above everybody else in terms of experience in dealing with the international scene. Whether you agree with her positioning or not in how to handle those things, she's been tested. She sat in the Situation Room when President Obama called the strike on Osama bin Laden. A lot of these Republican candidates, particularly somebody like Ben Carson, I think they just sort of shrink in the context of what's going on. And, it appears his, campaign is finally, the wheels have gotten pretty wobbly because he's just not up to understanding and keeping a grasp on all the things that are going on around the world. I mean, he's just sort of loose with the facts.
You talk to people now and they say, because you see the numbers still high for Trump and some from Ben Carson, Ted Cruz here locally, they're saying they want change, not so much what their background is or what their expertise is, but we just want change. So they're starting to go after, give Trump the numbers and Ben Carson and people that really don't have a political background.
Yeah, I think that was certainly the case, but that's what I think is shifting right now.
You're saying everything that's been happening here recently, people are like, wait.
I think when there is turbulence on the international scene, I think that's when you sort of temper your call for anyone but a someone with experience. I think that gets dialed back a little bit. Now, there's still going to be a debate about it. I think, for instance, among the Republicans, this probably helps a candidate like Cruz or Rubio.
He's even used that.
Yeah, because at least, in the United States Senate, they've had to deal with these issues before. Ben Carson's never dealt with these issues. Donald Trump hasn't dealt with these issues before. And, Trump is a pretty crafty politician. I mean, he's figured out that I'm just going to sound as tough as I possibly can, regardless of the content of what I say. I'm just going to say it in a way that's very tough. And I think he's benefiting, certainly
every time he does it, it works. As someone who, has been in the media and has studied communication for whatever I've studied it, while I've been doing it, I just think this is fascinating that the guy can say the things he says and the poll numbers go up.
Right. I mean, it's frightening and fascinating all at the same time because, like, the content of what he says is almost irrelevant. It's how he says it. It's the fact that he's being tough about it. Just this whole idea of whether we should have a database, maintain a list of all the Muslims in America. First, he agrees that it's a good idea. Then he says we need a watch list. And then he attacks the media for saying that he wanted a database. But now he says he wants a watch list. I don't know what the difference is between a watch list and a database.
Well, we have a watch list, right? I mean, we have a terrorist watch list. We don't have a Muslim watch list, but we have a terrorist watch list already, right?
Right. But he was sort of suggesting that it should be a Muslim watch list. I don't know. It's bizarre.
What you said about Hillary and her experience in foreign affairs is certainly true. One of the responses to that is that she's been in charge of all this stuff while all these bad things have happened. The rise of ISIS would be one example. And what would her response be to that?
Well, I think, the seeds of ISIS and Al-Qaeda started a long time ago, right? This isn't just, they've gained prominence recently, but, these are battles that have been going on for thousands of years, hundreds of years between Sunnis and Shia. So, this is not something new that anyone who happened to be in the Secretary of State's office or even in the White House in the last 20 years can be sort of held accountable for it. I think what you can be held accountable for is how do you deal with it? What is the message that you send about it? And I think that's how you have to sort of measure these candidates.
So how does Bernie stack up then?
Well, it's kind of a challenging position for Bernie too, because his campaign is all about change, as you were saying, Jackie. And again, at these times, people are concerned about security, and if security trumps change, that doesn't necessarily help the Sanders message. Because he doesn't have the same level of experience and isn't as passionate about those security issues as he is about, fundamentally changing establishment politics.
Well, now that we've had a big Democratic debate in our state, people are now starting to shift a little bit towards New Hampshire. Are we still going to be seeing these candidates come around here locally, or what's the future for the Democratic
I think so.
side?
It's sort of interesting. There were stories this week that even the Clinton campaign has started visiting some of the Super Tuesday states. So as we're approaching caucus date, because we're, 6 weeks away or so now.
Wow, that's amazing.
I know, it seems like we've been talking about the caucuses forever, but
we have.
As we get closer to the date, I think these candidates are starting to jump around. I think New Hampshire is going to benefit from that a little bit. But, we're going to get plenty of visits sort of between now and February 1st.
Okay.
All right, so we'll have to keep an eye on that and see if anything else levels off.
Yeah, right. Absolutely.
Wonderful. Well, have a good Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Good, and just wanted to one shout out to my wife. It's our 25th anniversary. So, yeah, it's good.
She put up with you. I mean, she's been with you for 25 years.
It's amazing. Yeah. So when I got married, it was right after the election in 1990. My candidate lost, so I had 400 family members at our wedding, and they all said, "So what are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm unemployed." So
let's get married.
Yeah. So that's how we got started.
But that's the nature of your business, and there are times when you work 20 hours a day, I imagine.
Yeah, that's right. So when I filled out my application for the bar exam, you have to list every residence and every job. Oh, there we go.
Look at you, handsome devil.
Very young at that time. That's down in Burlington. But you had to fill out every residence and every job you had since you were 18, and I filled it out when I was 36 years old. And I realized that I had 18 jobs and 18 residences in 18 years.
It took you a while to fill that out.
Yeah, that was the hardest part of the whole bar process, was remembering where I lived.
I just say, you have some other family here. You should give them a shout out.
Yes, so I got my brothers-in-law, Jim McPartlin and Frank Kemker are here. Jim's all the way from Australia, and Frank is here from...
Aha, got you on TV.
Wait, he's filming you. Good day, mate.
That's Jim with the camera, so...
That is awesome.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, congratulations
Great.
again.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good Thanksgiving.